Renting or buying or leasing. Renting a property. Let's look at the pros of renting. 1. Flexibility. Renting gives you the flexibility to move around as per your convenience. You can easily relocate to a different area or city without having to worry about selling your property. 2. Limited responsibility. As a tenant, you have limited responsibility for maintenance and repairs. Most of these are the landlord's responsibility, but there could be a few minor repairs that the tenant is expected to take care of, which will be documented in the agreement. 3. Lower upfront costs. Renting usually requires lower upfront costs as compared to buying a property. 4. You may only need to pay a security deposit and a few months' rent in advance. Security deposit varies from city to city and country to country. So, please read the terms and conditions clearly before you commit. Now, let's look at the cons of renting. 1. No control over the property. As a tenant, you don't have control over the property. 2. You may not be able to make changes or upgrades to the property without the landlord's permission. 3. No long-term investment. Renting does not provide long-term investment potential. 4. You don't build equity in the property or enjoy the benefits of appreciation in value. 5. Rent hikes. Rent hikes can be a concern in the long term. You may not have control over the rental amount or the frequency of rental hikes. Now that we have understood about renting, let's see what are the pros and cons of buying a property. First, the pros. 1. Long-term investment. Buying a property is a long-term investment that can provide potential appreciation in value over time, especially if the property is in a developing area where a lot of infrastructure developments are planned or have started. The appreciation will be exponential compared to buying a property in a well-developed locality. 2. Control over the property. As a homeowner, you have complete control over the property. 3. You can make changes, upgrades or renovations as per your preference. 4. Predictable costs. Buying a property means you have more control over the costs. 5. You are expected to pay the mortgage amount and other fixed expenses. Having understood the pros of buying a property, now, let's see the cons of buying a property. 1. High upfront costs. Buying a property requires significant upfront costs such as down payment, registration fees, legal fees, etc. 2. Limited flexibility. Homeownership limits your flexibility to move around or relocate to a different area or city. 3. Maintenance costs. As a homeowner, you're responsible for maintenance and repair costs, which can be expensive. Having understood the pros and cons of renting and buying, now let's understand how different it is to lease a property. 1. Leasing typically applies to commercial properties or in some specific arrangements for a residential property too. 2. It involves entering into a contract, lease agreement, with a landlord for a fixed period, usually a longer term to use the property. Typical duration will be greater than 3 to 5 years or even more. 3. It involves paying upfront a refundable significantly big deposit to the landlord, which in some cases can carry some element of risk. 4. Leasing may be suitable for businesses or individuals who require a specific location for their operations but do not want to commit to purchasing property. 5. It offers flexibility in terms of scaling or relocating your business, but it may have certain limitations and restrictions compared to ownership. Therefore, when deciding among these three options, consider factors such as your financial situation, long-term plans, lifestyle preferences, and finally the local real estate market tax implications and your willingness to take on responsibilities associated with each choice. Assessing these factors will help you make an informed decision that aligns with your goals and circumstances.
Hi there. I hope the comparison video you just saw gave you a lot of insights in terms of renting versus buying versus leasing. If you still have some doubts and you need some more data points to close out the decision, then check out this calculator which I'm going to show you right now, using which we feed in some numbers and then we'll see how the numbers stack up, and then some graphs which will probably help you into closing out the decision. Okay, so let's check out the calculator. So this is called as rent versus buy calculator, and I'm using from fi.money. There are multiple other calculators available you can download, and then basically they vary in terms of the parameters what they capture. So this is a very simple one. So let's go and look at it. Which city do you live in? So I need to change it. So let me change it to Bangalore. Probable rent of house you want to own 35,000. I think that's pretty decent. So 35,000, let's leave it there. And then how much will the rent go up annually? 5% is fair enough, but also there are places where it is 7%, 10%, depending on the landlord. Okay, so in case if it is, please change that. The cost of the house you want to own. So in this case, I have kept us 1.5 CR for a 3 BHK in Bangalore. But again, we are going to compare between renting and buying a house, right? Which means we have to go and live there. So I'll also add some interior costs extra. So I'll just put as 1.8, and then down payment. Okay, so that's 10% typical ask from bank if you're taking a loan. Home loan interest is about 8.5%. I'll leave it as it is. Loan tenure 20%, 20 years, but that's a normal thing. But again, in case if you want to reduce and make it as 15 years, you can also do it as 15 years. 15 years, okay? So you can do that. And then how do you invest your savings if you choose to rent? Now, this is basically the opportunity cost. And say opportunity cost is a delta between the EMI and then the rent what you would be paying. Okay, so that amount what you save if you invest in some instrument like, for example, stocks, mutual funds, corporate bonds, or for that matter FD or savings bank, wherever it is, right? Depending upon where you invest, and you're going to get your interest rates accordingly, isn't it? Higher the risk, higher the interest, lower the risk, lower the risk, and lower the interest rates. Okay, so depending upon your investor type. Are you a moderate investor, a conservative investor, or aggressive investor? So I will choose some midpoint right now, moderately as such. And then your optimism level about your housing price. So I'll keep it at neutral. Now this indicates what is your feel in terms of the price rise, whether it's going to really rise up 5x, 10x, or it's going to be just staying there or negligible amount, 1-2% kind of thing, depending upon the location. When I say location, I hope you have seen my previous video on location, because as far as I'm concerned, and I think that's a general rule, location, everything, right? Everything depends around that location. So if you haven't watched my previous video, please go and check it out. There's a link in the description which I've given. Please check it out. I'm sure it's a very useful video for you. So now, based on all the parameters what we have fed in here, let's see what the graph says. You may be better off renting your dream house for a maximum 49,000 than buying it. Actually, it says 49 up to 49,000. Even 45,000 rent if I pay, still renting is better according to this values what I supplied here. That's what it indicates. Clear, right? So, and if this is the green indicates the investing, and this blue indicates the buying part. Okay, so if you look at this is much better right now. So even if you're renting, you're much better off up till 40,000 as well. So if I change it to 40,000, still it is, it's above the blue line, right? So that's what it indicates. Okay, now, so let's keep it at 35,000. Now let's suppose the same 3 BHK instead of 1.8 CR, if it costs 1.25 CR, let's see what happens to your decision. You may be better off buying your dream house than renting it. Why? Because your base cost is input cost has come down, right? So everything depends upon this vis-a-vis your rent, right? Accordingly, your graph also changes. You see here, right? So now let's go and tweak this further. Let's say your optimism level, that means the area, the location where you're looking for this house, you're highly optimistic. That means you're buying somewhere the outskirts are just about outside the city. When you buy like that, obviously the price is going to increase over a period of time because the city will grow, infrastructure will come up, new infrastructures will come up, and so on. So the returns will be much, much higher, right? So now you see what has happened to the graph, right? You may better off buying a dream house than renting it because you will profit by a 1.56 CR. You see this graph, blue graph, it's gone up, right? Now the same thing if you go and buy a house, if the location what you're looking at is somewhere in the central business or district or a highly developed area, which means I'll put a highly pessimistic. Now what it tells you may better off renting your dream house, right? Because obviously the property appreciation is going to be very, very negligible, right? So that's the way you need to look at. Okay, now let's go and change one more parameter. Instead of Bangalore, big cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, etc. Instead of that, we'll go and see what happens in the smaller cities. So let's say I take Coimbatore. In Coimbatore, obviously a 3 BHK there, I might get it for 25,000, right? Let's leave all the other parameters as it is. And even this house could be 1.2 or it could be cheaper also, but let's keep it at 1.25. And this is moderately, yeah, okay. And then I'll keep this as neutral. Yeah, so I'll keep it neutral. Now let's see the graph. This is for Coimbatore, okay? So this is for Coimbatore. You may better off renting a dream house for maximum of 41,000. Up to 41,000 still renting is great in this kind of places, okay? The reason is the input cost is 1.25 CR. Now at the same time, the smaller cities, 3 BHK, you will get it for, let's say, 75 lakhs as well. You know, it's possible, right? Then you see what happens to the graph. You may better off buying your dream house than renting it. You see, so based on all these parameters, you can have based on the city where you're going to look for this house, buying or renting, or within the city, within the location also matters. Which part of the city you are looking at. All these factors decide in your decide your final decision. Okay, so. You can play around with these numbers again. Suppose if I make this loan as 20 years, see what happens. 20 years. Now just see what happens. Better off buying your dream house than renting because you will profit by so and so amount, right? So this is a nice calculator which you can use to play around and then actually take a decision, make 100% clear decision in terms of buying or renting or leasing.
In conclusion, if you're looking for long-term investment potential and complete control over the property, buying may be the better option. If you prioritize flexibility and lower upfront costs, renting or leasing may be the better option. Hope this video was useful to understand the key differences between renting versus buying versus leasing a property. Please like this video and share with your families and friends. Thank you. Please subscribe, if you have until now, and support me in bringing out many more such useful videos. Thanks for watching.